back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well today. Today's video is a vlog, which I'm super excited about because I thought it's about time to update you guys on how it's going living in a tiny home. It has actually been over a year now. It's probably been about a year and a half since we've moved into our tiny home. There is definitely a lot that we have learned by living in a small space, and I wanted to shed some light on the good as well as the bad, plus any of the changes that we would make if we were to build another one. As some of you may already know, if you've been on my channel for a while, we're actually living in a tiny home whilst we are building our dream home. Living on our land in a tiny home means that we get to save money on renting as well as just be on site and be really close to what is happening on the build site and just making sure that everything is going smoothly. Originally, when we had the idea of living in a tiny home, we were actually going to buy a static caravan, like an old used one, but sadly we couldn't actually get it through the access, so that is where the idea of building our own tiny home came about. We've actually done two whole separate videos where we showed you guys how to build the tiny home and also the finished tiny home tour. So if you guys haven't seen those, I'll link them in the eye and the description. You guys were actually so supportive on those videos. Those videos ended up doing really well, and I'm so happy that I did them. Honestly, if it wasn't for you guys commenting and watching these videos, none of this would be even possible. I also wanted to talk to you guys about YouTube. I have actually been here for a full decade, which is honestly crazy to me. It's been a really wild journey, but I honestly wouldn't change it for the world. It's honestly crazy to me how some of you guys have actually been here since my blonde or even red hair days, and honestly it feels like we've kind of grown up together. It's really special, the bond we've kind of created as a community. I sometimes go back on my super old videos and it's crazy to see how much of a timid Roxy I used to be, and to see myself from going from the timid Roxy to like a girl boss. It is crazy to see that all documented along the way. I have to say my favorite videos to kind of watch back and look back on are all of my renovation videos that I've done with my husband. We purchased our first house together in 2016 and we documented that, so to now be like over here building my dream house with my husband now is crazy. I know I don't say it enough, but honestly, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I am so thankful to all of you guys. Like, none of this would be possible without all of you. I seriously have to pinch myself sometimes that any of this has even happened to like little old me. Like, of all people, things like this just don't happen to people like me. I never normally talk about my background and where I come from on this channel. It's normally like, you know, happy stuff, but to be honest, you know, I have come from quite a poor family. When I was younger, my parents worked tirelessly day in, day out to provide for me, and there has still been situations when I was younger where, you know, they wouldn't have enough money to put food on the table. I remember growing up, I never even had like my own room in the house. I would normally have like a little corner of the lounge or something that I would call my club. So I kind of just want to put what I'm saying into perspective. Like, I don't normally talk about these kinds of things on my channel, but it really does mean the world to me that you guys are here and you're watching me and supporting me over all these years. Without you guys, my life would have looked completely different, like for sure. I first started doing YouTube in 2014 and it was literally just as a hobby to make some friends. At the time, I had just moved to a new town and I started college, and honestly, it was like that brief 2 months where I just had summer holidays and there was nothing to do. So I would watch all the bigger YouTubers at the time, like Zoella and that whole clan, and I would just look at them and the great friendship they had, and I wanted that for myself. Obviously, all of them had met through YouTube, so I was like, do you know what? Let's just start a YouTube channel. When I was back at school, I would have friends, but they were never like close connections. They were never like my best friend, and honestly, like flash forwards to now, and I have like over 4 million friends. It's kind of crazy. So even before I started my own YouTube channel, I was obsessed with YouTube as a platform. I would always watch people's like travel content, just daily vlogs. I feel like the long form content was always the sort of place that you could really get to know somebody and almost feel like you were their friend. I was actually on a Zoom call with YouTube themselves like a couple of weeks ago, and that's when they gifted me this nifty little sign. As part of the Zoom call, they were basically asking content creators, what was the moment where you truly felt like you made it on YouTube? And honestly, the first thing that popped into my head was my first ever Summer in the City meet and greet. I had always seen like all the bigger YouTubers vlog the like event, having meetups, like meeting all their subscribers and fans, and honestly, I was like, this is just too much. I remember they offered me to do a meet and greet, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like nobody's gonna turn up, nobody knows who I am. And to my surprise, when I came out of like behind the curtain, there was a whole queue of people waiting for me, and honestly, it was the most surreal moment moment ever. Up until that point, I had a couple of 100,000 like subscribers, I think, but it never really truly clicked that these were real people. So that was definitely the moment that I was like, okay, this is happening for real. A lot of the people that came to meet me that day actually brought like hand-drawn paintings for me and stuff like that, and I still have every single one till this day in like a big chest. I guess all I'm trying to say is, as I have been on this platform for like 10 years now, it's a whole decade, it really has just resonated with me lately that I am so grateful for you guys. Thank you all for sticking around, whether you've been here for the full 10 years, whether you've been here for 5 months, it doesn't really matter. I still appreciate you guys all the same. But okay, that's enough with the cheese now. Let's actually go through the tiny home and give you guys what you've been waiting for, and that's where I've been living for the last year and a half. All right, so right now I am stood in our lounge slash kitchen, which is on the other side. If you've seen the video where I showed you the whole like tiny house tour, you would have already known the layout, but yeah, it's a pretty small space. However, it's been strategically designed to basically house everything we would possibly need. We've got a 2-seater sofa. We were thinking at the start of having a 3-seater, but to be honest, it's mostly just the 2 of us here, so we didn't really need a huge sofa. Plus, we were able to get my work desk in here, and as I said in my initial like house tour video, I was gonna have my desk in my actual like studio, which is maybe about 2 minutes walk from here, but I prefer the fact that I have my desk right here. I can just work whenever, and yeah, I just don't need to like walk all the way over there. We of course have a coffee table and the TV. Everything's exactly the same. There has been a few little malfunctions with the tiny home. For example, our little hovering TV unit actually fell down probably a few months after I actually filmed that house tour, and it was literally just because of the weight. Like, we actually crammed so much stuff in here because it really is our only sort of storage here in the lounge, apart from the coffee table as well. But yeah, this was just having way too much weight on it, and it actually fell off the wall, so we had to put some extra like beams in the wall to kind of support the weight of it. So of course, as part of the lounge, we then also have the kitchen, and honestly the kitchen has been great. I have no complaints there. It has been really, really easy to use. I love the fact that it's so open, and it honestly houses everything we could possibly need, even though it is quite a small kitchen. I'm super happy with the color scheme we went for. Originally, I thought maybe it'll look a bit too clinical being white, but actually it's great because it just makes the space feel really light and airy, and the light is just bouncing off of it, which is great. Now, going down the hallway is quite narrow, but you know, you can fit through it just fine. So first up we have the toilet. The toilet is exactly the same, maybe a little bit more organized. I've recently done this, which I'm pretty proud of. All of my laundry detergents are looking pretty good. But yeah, again, everything is exactly the same as you guys have seen it over a year ago, and it's all going strong. And then as you come out, we have the bedroom, and the bedroom is a really good size. It's still serving us really well. I love how much light is coming in through these big doors. And the only thing we still haven't done is this. I still see this as an eyesore. This is our wardrobe, and it is quite deep, so that's why we were actually able to use it pretty well. But we were supposed to put a door on it to kind of cover it up, and we still haven't done it, so it's kind of annoying to look at. But oh well, this is the realities of living in a tiny home. You're probably never gonna finish it, even though it's such a small space. So before I get into the negatives, I do wanna talk about the positives of the tiny home and the design that we have come up with. The first thing about the tiny home that I absolutely think we've nailed is the actual positioning. It is completely south-facing, so you get most of the sun all day long, and I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because we have great lighting, but the tiny home does get very, very hot. The positioning of the tiny home is also good in another sense, and that is the actual location we have placed it. On this land, we do have 18 acres, and we were kind of toying around with putting this tiny home near the stable block, which is actually my like studio where I film most of my videos. However, that studio is about a 2-minute walk from the front gated entrance, so it would make it a little bit tricky with like parcels and postmen coming over. I can just imagine like the doorbell ringing, and I would have to like sprint in order to get get my parcel so that I wouldn't miss the postman. So it's good in the sense that it is very like close within the vicinity of the main house and the front gate. Another thing that we have definitely done right is the open plan living space with the kitchen. I absolutely love it when we have people over and I can prepare drinks and food and they're just chilling in the lounge with Matt, and it's kind of just like really nice and social. Back at the old house, I used to hate how the kitchen was in a whole separate room far away from the lounge, and you know, when you're hosting people, you could never really like do the food and prepare everything and also be social with them. So the space didn't really work for us as a family, but now I'm so happy with it. Another thing that I definitely do not regret is actually having all these huge sliding doors instead of windows. They just allow so much light and spaciousness into the tiny home. I mean, look at that. You can look straight out onto my garden, and it really just brings the whole like outdoor and indoor space together. It just makes the living space feel like much more than just the constraints of these four walls. So yeah, I definitely would not change that. Now, the main thing that I would change about the tiny home is actually our washing system. In our bathroom, we have just a plain old washing machine that we have actually purchased at our old house as we were moving. In the summer, there is no issues whatsoever when it comes to laundry. However, in the winter, I'm sure you can imagine it is absolute hell because we just do not have the space to dry our clothes. The sad reality of living in a tiny home that nobody really tells you about is how are you going to manage your like laundry, especially if you only have a washing machine and no dryer. Honestly, last winter, I will admit we had an embarrassing mound of laundry that we just could not get through because as quick as we were doing the laundry, it wasn't drying fast enough. The only spot that we actually have for a drying rack is either in here, which is not that great, or in our bedroom, right in the walkway. So honestly, it was literally the worst time of my life. I dreaded like putting new clothes on. I just wanted to wear the same thing over and over again just so that I didn't have to like wash my laundry, which obviously does not sound ideal. We spent so much money at the laundrette, like trying to dry our clothes, and yeah, it just was really an issue for us. Now, of course, the best solution is to actually just invest in a washer dryer or have like a washer and then dryer above. Obviously, we do not have the space for it in here, but I definitely will be getting a washer dryer in one. It's just that when we moved into this tiny home, we had literally just purchased this washing machine, so we didn't feel like we should really upgrade just yet. Now, the next thing I would definitely improve on is having incorporated more intentional storage space. In terms of built-in storage, we have the underneath the sink kind of storage, which is floating in the bathroom. We also have another floating unit, and that's obviously the TV unit. And as much as I love the floating sleek design, which is great for hoovering because I can just get right under there, having had it for a year now, I do think that we actually could have benefited from freestanding units instead, just for that extra shelf at the bottom. It really would have made all the difference when it comes to like junking up the house. Another area we could have had some more storage is actually instead of the kitchen like breakfast bar. As you can see, this space is just not very well utilized. We have my computer tucked in there. We have a bin, which is fine. You guys were complaining about having a bin next to the workspace. It doesn't actually smell, so I'm fine with that. It's just our board games that are a little bit problematic. We have this as the sort of junk space of the house. It's really the only wall where we can just like stack things, but yeah, it's not ideal, and we probably could have done away with the breakfast bar and maybe just had like a unit there. I do have to admit, as good as the breakfast bar was in theory, we haven't used it a single time. We haven't even got any stools for it because most of the time we eat dinner at our little reclining like coffee table, which raises, so that's absolutely fine. I think once this becomes like a guest house, then we probably will get some like proper bar stools and people can enjoy that space as a breakfast bar. Another thing I would definitely change about our tiny home is actually something a bit more serious and structural. It is, let me present to you, the overhang of our house. So that bit there. The overhang, if it was slightly longer and further away from the house, it would protect us from the sun. And because we have so much glass, on the front of the house. We obviously love the view, we love the light that comes through it, but we do not love the heat that comes through it. As you can imagine, on a hot summer's day, it literally feels like a freaking greenhouse in here. This glass that we got is double glazed, but it's not like the best quality glazing or anything, so it doesn't really protect us from the UV lighting. So as you can see behind me, we do have an aircon unit, which right now, as it's summer, we are having to run it every day, all day long. It is racking up the bills slowly, but equally, I don't want to live in a roasting house, so it's like, you know, you just gotta do what you gotta do. But I think if we did make that overhang just a little bit longer, it would have protected us from most of the sun. Now, speaking of the windows and doors, as you can see, we do have quite a lot of them, and even though I did say it's a good thing and I wouldn't change it for the world because I just love having all that light and the visual space, do you know what I mean? It does kind of limit you where you can put your furniture. So that is definitely one downfall, because you can't exactly put things in front of the doors or else it looks a little bit weird. I know we're not exactly using that door for anything, nor are we using this. It's literally just used as a window. It still would feel a little bit weird to obstruct it. So even though I absolutely love my sliding doors and everything that they provide, I do think that they are a slight disadvantage, and I thought it's worth mentioning. And now the very last thing that I would probably change or maybe reconsider in our tiny home design is a dedicated space for one very important thing that I didn't really think would be too much of an issue at the time. I literally thought of everything. I thought about a place for the bin, I thought about a place for the cat litter tray, and I didn't think about a place for shoes. Right now I'm in the bedroom, as you can see, and the corridor is, you know, quite narrow, but it's efficient. It's, you know, it does the job. You can walk through it just fine without bashing your elbows. And it has just enough space for some coats on the side as well as a radiator. However, I don't really think it's wide enough for a shoe rack. And that is where this issue comes in. It is the eyesore of the house and I hate it. We just had to get a tray from IKEA to be able to place our shoes as we get in and out of the house, and I just really dislike it. Also, expectation versus reality, there's our washing. But yeah, it doesn't look the most appealing. You do have enough space to walk through, but I just would have rather this be like a little unit, you know? If you guys know or have seen any thin shoe rack units that would fit in this space and not come out quite as much as the tray, that would be great. Let me know in the comments. I'm looking for something that would be as thin as the radiator. Does that exist? So yeah, those were all of the pros and cons of our particular tiny home design and what we have found living in it for over a year now. With all the positives and negatives, I still have to say I have been really thoroughly enjoying my time here living in the tiny home. Apart from like the laundry issue, which is like my main issue right now, I don't think I hate living here at all. Like, I really just love having a cozy small space, and I'm actually kind of worried how it will feel to be moving into a big house after this. A quick little sneak peek of what's been happening on the big house. This is what we can see from the tiny home. And yeah, it's kind of crazy how far it's come along. I can't wait to update you guys on everything, but yeah, it's looking good. I guess that is everything for this vlog and this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed revisiting my tiny home a year later. Let me know what you guys think of our design, and if you haven't seen the full like house tour when it was finished, I'll link it in the eye right there. In case you guys are interested as to how we built this place, I have also done a whole separate video on that, which I'll also link right there. As always, thank you guys so much for watching and being here. I hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!